Hello, Insiders. You've reached the Comfort Support line. To hear a retrospective on another classic episode of Inside Number 9, please stay on the line. If you are conducting a PPI scam or are currently cavorting with Madame Pam and her 5 lovely daughters, please hang up now. Okay, so this is another episode I've been looking forward to revisiting because it made such a big impression on me back when I first watched it. Also, it's earned itself a lot of recognition from within the Number 9 community, so I'll be interested to hear your thoughts as well. Put them in the comments, I do love reading them. I remember this one even bagged a spot on my old most disturbing episodes list, and yes, I will be doing another one of those videos, seeing as the series has now wrapped up. And I can tell you there will definitely be a new number 1, but I won't say what that is quite just yet. Anyway, Cold Comfort tells the story of Andy, who is a new volunteer at a crisis phone line. After meeting his co-workers, getting a briefing on nuisance callers and being warned not to get too emotionally involved with the callers, Andy finds himself in a harrowing conversation with a troubled teenager named Chloe. And things escalate from there, but I'll save that discussion until after we've passed the spoiler warning. So this episode is notable for being the directorial debut of Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith, both of whom also played lead roles within the story, with Steve as Andy and Reece playing George, the man in charge. Them directing it sort of happened organically, as it was made to be filmed with closed-circuit TV cameras, meaning the shots were kept static and filmed together in real time. Apparently this idea was inspired by a police interrogation video Reece had found on YouTube, and he found it so compelling that he couldn't look away and ended up sharing it with other people. And then they thought it might be a good way to film a number 9. Rather than hiring a director, they just needed to set up the cameras, then play everything perfectly in a few long, unbroken takes. Easier said than done, I'm sure. The setting and the plot of the episode were also inspired by an article Steve had read about the Samaritans, a charity helpline based in the UK. And it's a line people can call for any reason at all at any time. What stuck with him was the idea that people volunteering could take an extremely distressing phone call from a person on the brink of suicide, then have to start afresh with the next caller as if nothing had just happened. That's no easy task for anyone, but it's often what's expected of support and service workers. Too often we fail to consider their emotional state or even see them as real people beyond their jobs. Unless, of course, you've ever worked in customer service, so you remember how shit it gets and you're compulsively friendly and over-apologetic to anyone you meet in that field. With the characters all being volunteers, we get some insights into how they approach their work and why they've chosen to be there in the first place. I really like the subtle hints towards Andy's reason for becoming a volunteer. He mentions losing his sister and how he wanted someone to be there for him while he was dealing with his grief. An honourable reason. Plus, I think that his experience really set him up for how emotionally invested and vulnerable he gets with Chloe. He's new to the job, he really genuinely cares about what he's doing, and who knows, maybe Chloe reminded him of his sister in some way. Another character's motivation we hear is Liz, who just loves chatting to people and being a pal to anyone who needs one. And can I just take a moment to mention how much I bloody love Jane Horrocks? I've been a fan of hers since she played Bubble in Ab Fab and did her one-off sketch show Nevermind the Horrocks, which I've linked below as the whole thing is on YouTube. I'd also recommend the film Little Voice, which was a great wee film from the 90s and one of those VHS tapes I was always happy to stick on anytime. In contrast to gossipy Liz is Joanne, who takes a more professional, self-preservation approach to the job, and the two of them don't really get along as a result. Personally, I think Liz's attitude might work for you if you have that kind of personality, enjoy the gossip, and don't really take things to heart. But Joanne's sentiment is one I've heard echoed by therapists, social workers, and other folks who work with vulnerable people, because if a case affects you deeply, then that's going to impact your own mental health and the way you show up for other people. And I don't think that's cold at all. In fact, I think that's probably the only way a lot of people are able to cope in this line of work. And maybe if Andy listened to her, things might have turned out differently. So while we get some very funny one-liners and candid moments from Cold Comfort, things take a turn and the situation suddenly becomes very tense. And that's the beauty of the CCTV setup, because the camera can't look away, even for a moment. We feel this with Andy as he's effectively trapped at his desk on a phone line, and he has to take that next call, which could be anyone, anywhere who has that number. Could be a person in genuine need of support, could be a crazy stalker, or it could be another person wanking. There's just no way of knowing until you answer. And that's why I'm so glad I've never had to work in a call centre. And it's a terrible predicament for poor Andy, who at first really hasn't done anything all that wrong aside from some unfortunate word choices during that first call. Because even after revealing fairly little about himself, or even just by answering the phone, the caller can end up knowing way more about him than he does about them. And that's all I'm going to say without spoiling the episode or revealing the nature of the incident, but I'll have plenty more to say in just a moment. Before I get into all that, I'll just share a few bits of information to help our non-UK based listeners who might not know some of the British terms and references. 1471 is the number you dial here to check the last number who called the line, provided of course they haven't withheld their number. PPI was a type of insurance that had been missold to a lot of people, leading to mass refunds as a result, and unfortunately this also led to a huge amount of scam calls and texts. I remember seeing quite a lot of those myself from back when the episode first came out. Oh, and shout out if you caught the joke from the League of Gentlemen live at Drury Lane DVD. Patronise means to talk down to you. I think that's the second Ollie Plimsolls reference in number 9 after Tom and Jerry, if you're keeping track. I'm sure someone out there probably is. So anyway, now's your chance, if you haven't seen Cold Comfort, to hang up, stick on the iPlayer or wherever you watch your number 9s and see what all the fuss is about. Otherwise, stay on the line because we're about to talk about the twist. Right, so I like how we're gradually fed a few mini twists before the big reveal, with Chloe, first of all, not being dead, then knowing about the cat lady, and also knowing exactly where Andy is working. Each reveal gives that little bit of shock and escalates the threat to the point where that ringing phone becomes a source of absolute terror. Even if you're the kind of person who actually answers your phone without hesitation, stress or worry. I've often wondered what that must be like. I think in a very early draft the twist would have been that it was Liz or Joanne making the Chloe phone calls, and you can still see plenty of hints or red herrings that this is where the plot might be going. We definitely got that the call is coming from inside the house feeling as the episode went on. But no, it was George playing some fucked up game of mental torture with his volunteers, which he's been doing for years. We know he did the same to Victoria before Andy, and who knows how many other people before that. While George would probably claim that the job has simply broken him, he cites spending 27 years listening to other people's problems while no one listened to him, the things he's doing seem far more drawn out and sadistic than somebody simply blowing off steam or acting out due to stress. Clearly, there's something very wrong going on with him. The way that he's entertaining himself by tormenting innocent people, then turning around and acting like a decent, supportive colleague, that's bad enough. Then you think about the consequences, that thanks to his antics, at least 2 people end up dead, Andy and the cat lady. And he's had the trust of extremely vulnerable people for all those years. Who knows all the damage he might have done in that time? I even wondered if Chloe might have been based on a real teenager who called the helpline once, or if she was purely the invention of George's twisted little brain. I'm not sure which is worse, to be honest. And if he really wanted to do voices and characters that bad, maybe George could have done a few Amdram classes and left his co-workers in peace. Just a thought. Also, side note, but it's not even like his prank calls let off enough steam to help him cope with the job, because I feel like that may have been his way of justifying his actions. While he's mostly pleasant and mild-mannered, he completely loses the rag with Liz and attacks her at her station. And she's the one who ends up losing her job. Yes, she was initially in the wrong, but that's no way of dealing with a staff problem. Deranged and sick as he is, I think George was a really interesting character. And the fact that his motivations aren't fully explained only intrigues me further. Was he always like this and joined the helpline to keep a clean image while messing with people's heads? Or was it something that happened in his work or personal life that caused him to snap and start acting out in this bizarre way? We'll never know. But we do have a comment section, so any thoughts or Crazy George fanfiction you have, feel free to share it with the group. So how the Chloe voice was handled is an interesting subject as well, as it's one I've seen some mixed opinions of. So what they did was record Reese as Chloe, then they had another actress named Vicky Hall reading the same part based on Reese's performance, and the two were re-recorded and mixed together, giving us mostly Vicky in the first call, then Reese's voice becomes more noticeable over time. I think some people considered it cheating a little in order to hide the twist by having a different voice. Maybe Reese's voice would have been too obvious, though he has played his fair share of female characters over the years and he does kind of disappear into them. You'd almost forget Stella or Mrs. Levinson were being played by a man, especially when his legs look better in a skirt than mine ever will. Personally, I think the Chloe trick works, as I took it to be filtered through Andy's perception. Completely genuine and innocent in the beginning, then the cracks begin to show when he realises something is wrong, and that's when the mask falls away completely once he knows who Chloe is. And then of course we've got that final twist at the very end with the squaddy and the gun. Take that, Andy. I actually really love the cutaway at the end. The script originally had Andy being shot and his blood splattering the camera, but I think they made the right call cutting to the song. I've never been a fan of Take That, but now I get a little chuckle whenever I hear that song. Right, so now we come to the Patreon question of the video, which comes from Harper. They've asked me, if every number 9 character, Psychoville cameo inclusive, were put in a huge fight, who would win and why? Ghosts, Psychics, Best Newcomer Award winners, who would come out on top? And I have to say, I love this question, and it's given me some pretty hilarious visuals of this massive battle scene full of these weird people who mostly look like the same two guys. And my first thought, possibly because the Psychoville cameos were mentioned, was to go with Maureen Sourbutts. That applies to fistfights, weapons, or a dance-off situation, because she's got the moves. Plus, she's a ghost now, so I don't think you can even hit her back. And while we're on Psychoville, we did get a very brief Mr. Jelly appearance as well, so I can just picture him with an assortment of hooks, spears, morning stars, or whatever to attack people with, or you could just chase them around screaming Red Raw Stump. Now, the question for me is, would any of these characters start teaming up, and how is that likely to happen? And I think that kind of sorts out the winner or winners for me. I mean, technically, the Devil is a number 9 character, if you remember How Do You Plead, so he's probably the most powerful character in there. Plus, he might get support from the witch Elizabeth Gadge, who can shapeshift, use magic, and snap a man's neck like a twiglet, and she's got the demon Snowflake as an ally. Maybe she'd throw him at someone and he'd scratch their eyes out or something. And we've got even more demons when we look back at the show. Castiel/Andras, or whatever monstrosity Katie ended up turning into, the spirit of little boy who could possess the blue demon dwarf, and I know it wasn't a real demon, not in the supernatural sense anyway, but I like to think there's a guy in a low-budget Krampus costume running around with a machete. Then there's all our malevolent ghosts from Deadline. Good luck trying to deal with that lot. Varney the Vampire would probably get in the action too. Yet there's a lot of evil-aligned characters that would probably end up taking over. I mean, there's not much of a balance, is there? We kinda had a character who might have been Jesus in Last Night at the Proms, but he couldn't even survive the episode, never mind a punch-up. I could also possibly see a team forming of Women Who Kill as well. We've got Maureen, of course, along with Jean from Private View, Vicky from Love's a Stranger, Iris from Lip Service, and Franny from Mother's Ruin. And don't forget Catherine Oakwood from 3x3. She can just go full carry and make people's brains explode from a distance, so yeah, I think she'd be in with a chance there as well, solo or with the team. So yeah, I can see this as a bit of a battle royale with two big alliances. Team Satan and Women Who Kill. Now, I'm not even sure which side Elizabeth Gadge would be on. Oh, and a third challenge has now emerged in my brain, and that's the scary school kids from Mr. King. No way would I mess with that lot. Now, that was a great question, and it's left me with a lot to think of, and I'm curious to hear what you think as well. Who would emerge victorious from the big Inside Number 9 Royal Rumble? And what are they doing in the aftermath? I'm sure I've missed a really obvious one, so feel free to remind me of it in the comments. And remember, you too can ask me a question and get these videos a wee bit early by signing up to my Patreon. Big thanks to everyone who's already done that, and thanks again to Harper for giving us such a great question. So, Cold Comfort, what did you think? Would you have written anything differently? And what on earth do you think is the deal with George? Let me know your thoughts, and make sure you get subscribed for next time if you haven't already, because it's Nana's party and you're all invited. Like this video if you liked it, share if you think anyone else would, and please be careful if you get a phone call from anyone who says their name is Chloe. Bye for now.